Hi everyone, I've got a bit of a shorter video for today because I've been working on my portfolio this week over on ArtStation. Kind of been toing and froing on getting a portfolio together for a while now. If you've ever put together a portfolio, I'm sure you can relate with me on this, but looking your art over and over again and just trying to judge its merits as if you're an outsider and you're not the person who made all of it, it's a very weirdly tiring and sometimes frustrating experience, so I just haven't really had as much energy and time to be able to put into this week's video. But I'm trying to keep a positive outlook, and I'll put a link to where I'm up to with the portfolio over on ArtStation in the description below, just so you can check it out if you're interested. My hope is to get it completed by next week, so I'm sorry, but that's kind of reduced how long I could spend on this week's video. But I really wanted to get some up for you guys with it being the new year, and just kind of gives me an excuse to catch up with you all and what you've been up to. So I decided to make a video today about some of the draw this in your style challenges over on Instagram that I've been up to, and it's going to be a mixture of speed paints and also looking at how I made some of the brushes that I used in those speed paints. I'm going to start with Kai's challenge, which was to redraw in your own style his original character Stargirl. I decided to keep in all the little changes and redraws in my speed paint. I know it kind of bloats the footage a little bit, but at the same time I think it shows how often you change up a painting while you're doing it digitally. I also couldn't stand the warped perspective that I feel I achieved with her face, so I ended up going really high contrast route with this one, which in the end I think worked to give it a bit more atmosphere, so it was kind of a nice mistake to make. I also wanted to talk a bit briefly on the brushes that I used in today's painting. I used Photoshop CS5, so I'm a good few years out of date by now with my tech, and if you're in a similar boat you'll know it can be hard at this point to find good brushes for this version, or at least I find it difficult to find them, and especially when you're looking at work on software like Procreate, it really shows up the lack of diversity in brushes on Photoshop. Now, I don't have the money to improve my tech or buy all these brushes that are really well made, so I decided to try and learn how to make my own brushes. I've been looking for some traditional looking brushes, ones that mimic, say, watercolours or pencils, because they're my favourite to use personally, and I like the appearance of texture in digital paints a lot. I don't like them too overly polished, mainly because I can't do that. So I took some different types of scrap paper from my cupboard that I had left over, and I painted over them with some acrylics, some gouache, some scribbles with pencils, some graphite and charcoal. I just used a lot of different media. I just went a bit nuts, to be honest, making scribbles and textures, which I then scanned into my computer and then played with them. Now hopefully on screen you'll see it, but first you can turn these splodges and images that you've created into something that you call a brush preset. You just need to isolate them and turn them black and white if they aren't already. And then you just play with the levels until they have a pure white background and just like a black and grey splodge image. I know I'm using splodge a lot. Now you might need to paint over certain like elements in it with white just to kind of make it a cleaner image, but that's really more up to you and how you want your brush to appear. Then just click edit at the top and define it as a brush preset, and it will appear now under your brushes when you go and click that. Next, if you're wanting to add a bit of texture to your brush like I wanted to, you just need to take a section of, say, a scan like I've done and crop it all down. The idea is that you're going to turn this into a continuous pattern, so if you turn it again into black and white by either lowering the saturation or just turning it black and white, you can play with the levels again, increase the black or the white, and just kind of play with it so that you get a much sharper contrast. That way it's going to show up more when you use it in the brush texture. Now if you want to turn it into a continuous pattern, and you can do this with most things by the way, is if you click on filter at the top and then offset it, you'll see the border lines between the canvas where it would continue if it was a pattern. And then all you need to do is click the clone stamp tool, and you click Alt, or you can basically pipette parts of the image from other areas of that image and paint over those lines to try and create this more continuous image. I'd definitely spend a bit more time than I'm doing in showing this, but this is the general idea, so that when you offset it you can try and get rid of these barriers and lines and make it continuous. The main purpose of this is you just don't want weird lines appearing when you use your brush. And then finally edit that image when you're happy with it and define it as a pattern. And now you have both a pattern and a brush preset. And if you click the little icon by your brush when you choose that tool, it's going to come up with these brush brush preset settings and information, and you can start playing with how that brush is going to look. So you can pick different brush presets, you can add textures, maybe invert that texture and see if it best shows the texture inverted. It's all kind of experimental and a little bit hard to describe, so really just have a bit of fun. If you create them, just play with them and try and create these images that you'd be interested in painting with. That's really the highlight of making your own brush, is you can make something that you couldn't find anywhere online that is perfectly unique to your painting. So I think it's a really fun thing to do. Now I'm still looking on how to make a good gouache and pastel brush, and if I get there I will try and make maybe an extension to this video or like a follow-up and link to maybe all of the brushes that I do create that I'm happy with, so that then you can just download them. Obviously I'll put it up for free, and I'll probably link it over on DeviantArt when I do. So yeah, I'm no expert, guys. I'm still in the playing about experimental stage of this. There is a really good video that I used a lot when I was learning this by Bobby Chu, who's just a great artist anyway, and if you're interested in going more into depth in this and understanding it a bit more, I'll link to his video on screen and in the description. But for now I'm off. Just a quick reminder that next week is the second prompt squad video, so get your drawings in for the prompt as soon as you can. The prompt was an astronaut riding a cow in Victorian London, so it's definitely something to test yourself with. Now I'm going to leave you on one more speed paint of another Draw This in Your Style challenge that I've done in the last few weeks. This one was by Pastelmere, and hopefully you can see some of the different brushes that I've been creating using my mixed media scans in this piece now that you've seen how I did it, and hopefully maybe this has inspired you as well to maybe add more of a personal touch to your own digital paintings too. And if you nail that gouache paint or a pastel paint, you'll have to tell me how you actually did it. So I hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas and New Year. If you fancy a chat about it or what you've been up to, or maybe the difficulties you've had with digital painting in the past, I'd like to hear the battle stories. Please come and chat with me down in the comments, and I'll see you next week for Prompt Squad. Chat soon.